All right, I'm gonna try this again. I started to record a response to this question like 3 times and totally messed it up. Nothing about the question itself, just interruptions and not ending the recording at the appropriate time and all kinds of things. So some days are like that. Um, Doing a executive functioning course on like tools for executive functioning on the school website. Partially, one of the reasons I'm doing that is because wow, sometimes my work feels really overwhelming because it is not in all these like organized little boxes. Lots of moving wheels. Anyways, moving on from that. I was coming on here to respond to a post on GPU. I do find, despite sometimes having things not work out the way that I planned, I do find that recording responses um, allows me to get deeper into a question than, typing can take a really long time. And this question, I feel like, is particularly nuanced and covers kind of a couple different topics. So I'm just going to read the question, and I'll probably stop at a few points within the post and respond to different parts of the post before continuing on with the post for clarity. So let me start by reading the beginning of this post. My son tried out ninja class tonight. He's 6. This type of stuff, this is the type of stuff he loves, jumping, swinging, etc. He follows a YouTube channel of kids that are great at ninja stuff. But when he didn't get everything right the very first try, he gave up. He was so upset with himself. I don't know why or when it started, but he thinks if he doesn't do something right on the first try, then he's not good at it. He started actually going to go ahead and stop there and respond to that part of the post. I feel like it's pretty developmentally appropriate for a 6-year old to feel a lot of frustration around things and you know in theory and in their minds they see something and they're like, oh, that looks easy and I could really do that, and then they give it a try and they're muscles and their motor skills and all of that aren't quite there yet. And these are things that actually take practice before they're quite as easy. Of course, that's why we're getting him a course, right? And then he wants to back out. So, from a parent perspective, we're kind of looking at it like, okay, well, we thought maybe you wanted to get good at it, right? And it makes sense. But there's so many different things that can come up for an individual person when it comes to actually doing the things. I wouldn't worry too much, like, if he's getting upset with himself and not wanting to do the thing anymore, I wouldn't worry too much about that because, some of the things they're all learned skills, right? We'll continue reading the post to get into that, but um, and some of them, I mean, 6 is a great age to learn all of these different things, and um, you know, it takes a little bit of time for somebody to actually like feel comfortable doing the thing. And so it sounds like your kid's kind of getting to a blockade at that point where things get a little bit difficult. And so we'll talk about that after I finish reading some more of this post. So he started crying and saying he wanted to go home. I couldn't get him to tell me what he was thinking or feeling. I was struggling with whether to leave or try and get him to stay and at least watch, hoping he might calm down a little. I offered to go out there with him and he didn't want to. He wouldn't talk or say anything other than he wanted to leave. All right, so I'm going to pause here again and address this part of the post because when we become upset, when we're in an emotionally compromised state, rationale, like, it's not how our brains are made. Like, once we're already crying and completely emotionally compromised, our brain and bodies have already gone into a response where, our amygdala's gotten bigger, and like we've had all of these different endorphins release into our body. And um so we're not really, you want to plug that in for me? Thank you. So we're not really like designed to do a lot different in that moment. Sometimes, we can like offer what they need for emotional support, which could be cuddles, it could be sitting next to them, it could be leaving and maybe just going out and sitting in the car and having a conversation with them to make sure that they actually want to leave. But when somebody tells us they want to leave and they're over it and they're crying, in the situation, I'd definitely check in. Hey, you sure that's what you want to do? And if they say yes, I'd probably just go ahead and leave. And like I said, you could pause in the car, maybe help them to emotionally regulate before leaving. But if that gets them more emotionally upset, if they're like, let's just go home now that we're in the car, then it's okay to leave this time and address the emotions. Or anytime when somebody is asking us to leave, particularly when we hold all the power around whether that person actually gets to go or not, because they don't have any of the resources it would take for them to be able to remove themselves from that situation. So when our kiddos are asking us to leave, it's in the best interest of everybody to kind of respect that boundary and go ahead and get to a place where they're feeling more comfortable. And it doesn't equate. Here's the thing: when we leave and we honor their boundary, it doesn't actually equate quitting or being done with that thing. Um, we can always revisit that thing later. So maybe, in 6 months, it's more developmentally appropriate, or, maybe we do private tutoring instead of a big class. And that's one thing I wanted to actually touch on before I continue reading more on this post, too, is like, it sounds like your kiddo's a really sensitive kid. And it seems likely that, like in this specific situation, he probably was feeling like frustrated, and then that frustration maybe turned to shame. And, when everybody's looking at you and then you're ashamed, and then all of a sudden your face starts burning and your eyes start watering and you're crying and everybody's looking at you, and he doesn't really like, our brains and our bodies just kind of do that to us. And the fear of humiliation and judgment and all of that stuff is very, very natural. And then by the time you're crying, like, that's so embarrassing for us. Like if that happens to you, um, and maybe, all of us can remember a time when, like, we got so upset for some reason that we were like not calm and cool and 100% in alignment with ourselves. Maybe that was crying or snapping or like, showing some kind of an emotion we were trying to cover while we were getting ourselves to higher ground. And y- particularly when we were kids, I can really remember being in those settings and how much I just like wanted everybody to not be looking at me and how embarrassed and like, and then the crying when I got that upset, um, then the crying just made me feel more ashamed and more embarrassed and more humiliated. And so protecting our kiddos, like their autonomy around being able to leave in that time too, when they're just like, oh my gosh, I just don't want people to be looking at me right now, is like super duper powerful thing to do, really. Like, okay, let's go, man. If that's how you feel, then let's go. And maybe in the car we can have that conversation, and they're like, no, I actually want to go back in there. And if that's the case, then we do the things that are going to help us feel better to like put on our you know put on our best face and go back in there in front of people after we feel like we've probably like we went from not being able to do the thing to crying publicly. Oh my goodness, this is humiliating as heck. So going back in there, they may or may not want to, but if they do, then like, we help them take some deep breaths and you got this, and like cheering squad if that's what they want. So moving on from that, you had some other concerns basically because this kind of thing has happened before. So he was like this when learning to ride a bike. And this is restarting the post. He was like this when learning to ride a bike. He still won't try again because he wasn't good at it the first time. Same with roller skating, except he did finally stick through that, and he was so happy that he did. He did finally admit that the teacher made it too hard on purpose. I don't want to make him do something he doesn't like, but one, he does like this stuff. And two, I don't want him to always quit because it's hard. How should I handle these situations? So, um, I want to address like the second question first. One moment, sorry. I want to address the second question first. You know, he's 6. So I wouldn't worry so much about like quitting when things are hard. Um, these things, everything that's mentioned in the post, from ninja classes to riding bikes to roller skating, these things all have like a lot of learned skills in them, as I was mentioning in the beginning. And in theory, it seems like you should just get up and go, like, in your mind, not the way we're looking at it. We're adults. We recognize this, but the way that somebody who's new to this and they see other people doing it, they're like, oh, that looks like a breeze. You just get on roller skates or a bike and you just go. And it's not always like that. Like maybe for some people, sometimes they're in the perfect setting or, but pushing through and persevering are really empowering. When we want to do something, um, aka the stuff in this post, things that he does like and um, struggles to put into practice or to play. But when we want to and we hit blockades and walls, that is really frustrating. And the other side of that is success. And that is super duper empowering. Like succeeding at the thing that we want to do feels really, really good as a child, as an adult, as anybody in life. And I feel like there's a lot of equating. I don't know how else to put it. That happens in the parenting discussion where, you know, a 6-year old is giving up really easily to somebody who sets up patterns with never following through. Now, I mean, in some cases that could be true. For the most part, um, it's not really like that. Kids are developing their brains, they're learning about their environment. And when it comes to doing things, I like to think about it like creating a healthy relationship with that thing more than like a follow through with the thing or having the thing continue like I don't know. It's like a mindset shift from worrying about somebody always quitting because things are hard, which is a pretty like common narrative. We hear it a lot. To wondering how I can like help my kiddo get the tools to navigate a situation when a situation gets hard. And, there's also a knowing in it too that comes from communication with your kid and understanding how your kid is because everybody's different, right? And we all have different needs and different ways to interact with things and different things that make us excited that we actually really want to do and the things that really excite us, right? And um, the things that are hard. And as parents, when we know our kiddos, we get to know and understand where, like when and why somebody's quitting, whether they are asking for more inspiration to push through to learn more, or they're genuinely saying that they want to quit. Because those two things definitely matter. It's like, it's a nuance for sure. But the thing is like when we help somebody push through and like persevere with something that they really want to do, it's an ongoing thing, and we don't want to go full on exposure into that thing if that's causing them a ton of distress. Because when that's causing them distress, if they're, crying in class and really not having a good time, they're not really learning the thing. The brain's not actually designed to learn when we're emotionally compromised, kind of as I was mentioning before. Um, then those things aren't really going to help set up healthy patterns or healthy relationships with the thing anyways. In fact, those are the things that might set up the pattern with us um, quitting when things get hard. So I like to think about this more as like, how can I help my kid have the best experience doing the thing that they want to do? Um, how do I have my help my kiddo to empower them to have the tools to do the thing that they want to do? And you know, I think classes are a great way. Like that's a great thing to start with. Now, if a kiddo isn't like thriving in a classroom environment because it's, perceiving they're perceiving that maybe people, or they're thinking that maybe people are making fun of them, or they're really struggling with the thing and the classroom isn't offering enough one-on-one. There's a lot of reasons why, and it could just be that while in theory a 6-year-old could be quite developmentally ready for going to a ninja class, it could be that it's just too soon for him to be honing his skills quite that much. And so he finds it really frustrating. So I might even like, you know, maybe just one thing at a time. I don't know if these were all actually overlapping. You don't indicate that in your post, but um, it's okay to let go of things if they're not working out right now and revisit them again later. And what are some tools, like I was saying, like um, a bicycle is a really good example. If somebody is struggling to learn how to ride a bicycle because they didn't even want to try again, um, are there more things that we can add to the situation that, like, would be helpful? Like, I I don't know if there's like, if there were training wheels are really helpful, helmets and knee pads and elbow pads, going to a specific flat area that makes the learning how to ride part a little bit easier without having any hills involved, because that can be really scary. And when we meet somebody's when we meet somebody's fears and their needs by giving them tools to set them up for success, what that is doing is teaching them that they're allowed to use tools that set them up for success. And that will help them in every setting, like their interpersonal lives, in their relationships. It'll help them in the workspace and in the school area. And um, knowing when and where and how to use different things like training wheels and stuff like that is actually, it's super empowering. And I would note that, like, socially, we come from a background of people acting like if we used those tools, they would make us soft and weak and delicate. And, I don't really see any problem with being soft. I'd love a softer world. But, the world that we live in isn't very soft. But the thing is it puts a lot of, it takes us, it puts a block between us and our own self comforts. And self comforts are not a bad thing. So, there's this healthy line to walk between kind of like pushing people into doing everything and like living by this kind of hardened rules, and learning about our people and honoring our people, so that when our people grow up, they can trust themselves to make decisions that align with themselves, and so that they're not always like people pleasing and doing things because other people want them to. And they're really genuinely doing the thing that they want to do. And if we're able to empower them when they do want to do the thing, like you're saying, your kiddo wants to do the thing. So we find ways to empower them to do the thing so that they're able to have those successes. And in the future, when they want to do the thing, whether it's riding a bike or, starting a business or engaging in, like, relationships and things like that, they'll feel really confident that they're doing those things because they're the things that they want to do. And when they come up against things that'll hard, they'll have the internal tools and resources to reach inside and be able to make choices that are aligned with really like how they want to live their lives. And so many of us, like, raised with the do as I say and the push through and the like get her done kind of like attitudes that are out there, like we really struggle to even make decisions or choices that are based on how we want to live our lives. And so, through listening to your kiddo when he says he wants to go and really respecting his boundaries and coming back around and empowering him when the time is right to ride a bike or roller skate, and sometimes, you know, be that cheering squad. That's really the thing. It's like, be that cheering squad. Find the ways that your kiddo responds like best to what they need when they really want to get the thing done, and cheer them through it and find a way to help them do the thing. And again, though, when they're 6, like, they're just little kids, and play is wonderful. We don't always need adult led play to learn things. um and it's okay not to worry about tomorrow. Particularly right now, the pressure for that is just going to pick up more and more and more as each year goes by. And there's plenty of time to learn how to do the things, to ride the bike, to roller skate, and all of those things. So, you know, um, if he's really not ready yet, there's no need to push it. Just, there's the bike, and we'll get you on the bike when you're ready for that bike. So, yeah, I mean, holding space for our kids just to be kids is, I think it's more important than the conversations allowing room for in the parenting world. But, anyways, I won't say more than that. But I think you're doing an amazing job as a parent, and it's really wonderful that you're thinking about like being there for your kid and finding different ways to empower your kid to be able to do things that your kid really wants to do. And that's awesome. That's a wonderful thing to do. And so, yeah, keep on going the way that you're going, and eventually, hopefully, he'll build like a healthier relationship with the times that things don't work out the way that he wants them to. And that all that disappointment and emotional stuff is stuff that, through being an emotional coach to our kids and being available for our kids and all of that, like learning how to process disappointment and frustration and all of that, they're learning it from us and through the ways that we model it and the ways that we talk about it. And it's something that comes with time. And, you know, so I wouldn't worry too much about any of that, at least. I really wouldn't worry too much about any of this, honestly. With time, everybody will grow into who they are, and that's a really wonderful and empowered, beautiful thing. So I'll leave it at that, and I hope this has been helpful for you.